The Highland Suites sat on the edge of a forgettable highway exit in Kansas, the kind of hotel that business travelers chose because it was clean and cheap, not because it was memorable. At 10:32 p.m. on a Tuesday, the lobby was nearly empty except for Jake Morrison, the assistant general manager, who was restocking coffee supplies behind the front desk when the screaming started. "Thief! Someone call the police!" Jake dropped the coffee filters and ran toward the sound. A woman in her late 50s stood in the second-floor hallway, her face contorted with rage and tears. She was pointing at a young housekeeper, Daniela, barely 22, who'd only been working at the Highland Suites for 6 weeks. "Ma'am, what's happening?" Jake kept his voice calm, professional, even as his heart hammered. "This girl stole my wedding ring. I left it on the bathroom counter, and now it's gone. She was the only one in my room." The woman, Mrs. Linda Pritchard, according to the name Jake quickly recalled from the guest list, was shaking with fury. Daniela's eyes were wide with terror. "Sir, I swear, I didn't take anything. I cleaned the bathroom like always, I didn't touch any jewelry." "She's lying. My ring is worth $12,000. White gold with diamonds. It was right there on the counter, and now it's gone." Other guests were emerging from their rooms now, drawn by the commotion. An elderly couple. A man in a business suit. A family with 2 teenagers. All watching, judging, forming opinions. Jake felt the familiar weight of crisis management settling on his shoulders. "Mrs. Pritchard, let's step into your room and search thoroughly. Daniela, please wait in the hallway. I want her arrested." Ma'am, let's search first. If we don't find it, I'll call the police myself. But let's be certain." Mrs. Pritchard's room, 318, was immaculate. Daniela had done excellent work, as always. Bed perfectly made, towels arranged, surfaces gleaming. Jake checked the bathroom counter where Mrs. Pritchard claimed she'd left the ring. Nothing. He checked the sink, the floor, behind the toilet. Nothing. "It's not here because SHE took it." Mrs. Pritchard's voice was getting shriller. Jake opened the trash can, carefully sifting through its contents. Nothing. He checked under the bed, in the nightstand drawers, behind the curtains. The ring was nowhere to be found. "Mrs. Pritchard, when did you last see the ring?" "This morning. I took it off to shower at 9 a.m., left it on the counter, and went to breakfast. When I came back at 11, housekeeping had been here, and the ring was gone." Jake pulled out his phone, checking the housekeeping log. Daniela had cleaned room 318 at 10:15 a.m. The timeline fit Mrs. Pritchard's story perfectly. His stomach sank. "I need to speak with Daniela privately. Please wait here, Mrs. Pritchard. I promise we'll get to the bottom of this." In the hallway, Daniela was crying silently, her hands trembling. The other guests had retreated to their rooms, but Jake could feel their presence behind closed doors, listening. "Daniela, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you see a ring in that bathroom?" "No. I swear on my daughter's life, I didn't see any ring. I cleaned the counter, the mirror, the toilet, everything. There was no ring there." Jake studied her face. He'd interviewed Daniela himself when she applied for the job. Single mother, working 2 jobs to support her 4-year-old daughter. She'd been desperate for steady work, grateful for the opportunity. Would she risk everything for a ring? But $12,000 was more than Daniela made in 6 months at the Highland Suites. That kind of money could change her life. The doubt crept in, unwelcome but insistent. "Daniela, I need to search your cleaning cart." Her face crumpled. "You think I took it?" "I don't think anything yet. But if that ring is on your cart, we need to know. If it's not, that helps prove your innocence." They went to the housekeeping closet where Daniela had parked her cart after her shift. Jake went through it methodically, cleaning supplies, fresh towels, trash bags. No ring. He checked her apron pockets. Nothing. Her personal bag. Nothing. "See? I told you." Daniela's voice broke. I didn't take it. Jake wanted to believe her. Everything in him wanted to believe her. But Mrs. Pritchard's accusation was specific, detailed, and the timeline was damning. If he didn't handle this correctly, the hotel could face a lawsuit. Daniela could face criminal charges. His own job could be on the line. I need to call my manager, Jake said quietly. And Mrs. Pritchard wants the police involved. No. Please. If the police come, even if I didn't do anything, people will think I'm a thief. My family, my daughter's school, everyone. Daniela grabbed his arm. Please, Jake, you know me. I would never. But did he know her? 6 weeks. That's all. 6 weeks of watching her clean rooms efficiently, smile at guests, arrive on time. Was that enough to really know someone? Jake's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Pritchard. If that girl isn't arrested in the next 10 minutes, I'm calling the police myself and posting about this hotel on every review site I can find. He was out of time. Daniela, I'm going to ask you to go home for tonight. With pay. Tomorrow, we'll review the security footage, investigate thoroughly, and figure out what really happened. But right now, I need you to leave before this situation escalates. You're sending me away? That makes me look guilty. I'm protecting you from a guest who's getting increasingly aggressive. Please, trust me on this. Daniela left, still crying, and Jake returned to room 318. Mrs. Pritchard was on her phone, already mid-post on social media. He could see the caption, robbed at Highland Suites, staff stole my wedding ring. Mrs. Pritchard, please don't post that. Not yet. Give me until morning to investigate. Why should I? That girl stole from me. Because if you're wrong, you'll have destroyed an innocent person's reputation and career. Is that something you want to live with? Mrs. Pritchard's finger hovered over the post button. Finally, reluctantly, she deleted the draft. Fine. But if you don't find my ring by morning, I'm going to the police and the media. After she slammed the door in his face, Jake stood in the empty hallway, feeling the weight of impossible choices. He needed to review the security footage, but the camera on the second floor had been malfunctioning for 3 days. Maintenance kept saying they'd fix it tomorrow. Of course it would break now. Of course. He went back to the office and pulled up what footage he did have. The lobby camera showed Mrs. Pritchard leaving for breakfast at 9:14 a.m. It showed Daniela arriving for her shift at 9:45 a.m., pushing her cleaning cart toward the elevator. It showed Mrs. Pritchard returning at 11:03 a.m., walking normally, not upset yet, but there was no footage of the second floor hallway, no footage of Daniela actually entering or leaving room 318, no footage of what happened in that crucial window between 10:15 and 11:00 a.m. Jake rubbed his eyes, exhausted. It was almost midnight. He needed to make a decision about tomorrow. Call the police? Wait and investigate more? Suspend Daniela? Fire her? His phone rang. The night auditor, Marcus, calling from the front desk. Jake, you need to come out here. Now. In the lobby stood a man in his 60s, dressed in pajamas and a hotel robe. He was holding something small and shiny in his palm. Is someone missing this? He asked, holding up a white gold ring with diamonds that caught the fluorescent lights like tiny stars. Jake's heart stopped. Where did you find that? In the ice machine on the second floor. My wife wanted ice for her water, and when I opened it, this was sitting right on top of the ice. Figured someone must have dropped it accidentally. The ice machine. Right next to room 318. Jake took the ring carefully, his mind racing. Sir, thank you. You may have just saved someone's career. What's your room number? 214, name's Bill Henderson. Happy to help. After Mr. Henderson left, Jake stared at the ring in his hand. How did it get in the ice machine? Did Mrs. Pritchard drop it there herself somehow? Did someone else find it and hide it? Was this even the same ring? He needed answers. Now Jake knocked on room 318 again. Mrs. Pritchard answered, still fully dressed, still furious. What? Is this your ring? He held it up, her face transformed, shock, relief, confusion. Yes. Where did you find it? Did that girl have it? No. A guest found it in the ice machine. The ice machine? That's impossible. I never went near the ice machine. Are you certain? You didn't get ice this morning? Maybe before breakfast? Mrs. Pritchard's eyes flickered, just for a second, but Jake caught it. Recognition. Memory. Doubt. I might have. I don't remember. But if I did, I was wearing my ring. I didn't take it off until after my shower. Jake kept his voice gentle. Mrs. Pritchard, is it possible you took the ring off earlier than you remember? Maybe when you washed your hands? Maybe when you got ice? No. I remember specifically taking it off in the bathroom after my shower. But her voice had lost its certainty. She was questioning herself now, and Jake could see the panic setting in, the panic of realizing she might have been wrong, might have accused an innocent person, might have nearly destroyed someone's life over a mistake. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to really think about the answer. Have you been having any memory issues lately? Forgetting where you put things? Losing track of time? Her face went pale. Why would you ask that? Because I want to understand what happened. I want to make sure everyone's okay. Including you. Mrs. Pritchard sat down heavily on the bed, the ring clutched in her fist. My husband died 8 months ago. Since then, I've been scattered. My daughter keeps saying I should see a doctor, but I thought I was just grieving. But lately, she looked up at Jake with tears streaming down her face. I've been forgetting things. Important things. Conversations I don't remember having. Places I don't remember going. This morning is fuzzy. I remember being in my room, I remember breakfast, but the details between. She pressed her hands to her face. Oh God. Did I accuse that poor girl of theft when I was the one who lost my own ring? Jake sat down in the desk chair, giving her space. I think you probably got ice this morning, before your shower. Maybe you took your ring off while handling the ice bucket, people do that, rings slip off wet hands. You put it down for just a second, maybe on top of the ice machine, meaning to put it back on. Then something distracted you, and you forgot. You came back to your room, took a shower, and when you didn't see the ring where you thought you'd left it, you assumed someone had taken it. But I was so sure. I was so certain she stole it. Memory is tricky, especially when we're stressed or grieving. Our brains fill in gaps with what makes sense to us, even if it's not what actually happened. Mrs. Pritchard looked at the ring in her hand like it was a weapon she'd used to hurt someone. I need to apologize to that girl. I need to tell her I was wrong. I accused her of being a thief, in front of everyone, and I was wrong. You will. Tomorrow, when she comes in for her shift. But Mrs. Pritchard, I also think you should talk to your daughter. Tell her what happened. Consider seeing a doctor. If you're having memory issues, there might be treatments that can help. She nodded, unable to speak. After Jake left her room, he stood in the hallway where this had all started just 2 hours ago. The door to room 318 closed behind him, sealing away a woman who was facing the terrifying possibility that her own mind was failing her. He texted Daniela, ring found. You're completely cleared. No police, no trouble. Come in tomorrow for your regular shift. I'm so sorry for what you went through. Her response came immediately, where was it? Ice machine. Long story. Tell you tomorrow. Jake returned to the office, to the endless paperwork that came with crisis management. He typed up an incident report, carefully noting every detail, Mrs. Pritchard's accusation, the search, the discovery, the resolution. He noted his recommendation that Daniela receive a formal apology and compensation for the emotional distress she'd experienced. At 1:47 a.m., alone in the quiet hotel office, Jake thought about memory uncertainty and how easily we can be wrong about things we're absolutely sure are true. He thought about Daniela, who'd done nothing wrong but been treated like a criminal. He thought about Mrs. Pritchard, grieving and scared and losing pieces of herself without even realizing it. This job had seemed simple when he'd accepted it 2 years ago. Manage a hotel. Keep guests happy. Make sure everything runs smoothly. But it was never simple. It was about navigating human complexity, making impossible decisions with incomplete information, protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. His phone buzzed. A text from Daniela, "Thank you for believing me." But Jake wasn't sure he had believed her. Not entirely. Not when it counted. He'd searched her cart, doubted her story, sent her home. He'd been protecting the hotel, protecting himself, not protecting her. Tomorrow, he'd do better. Tomorrow, he'd make sure Mrs. Pritchard apologized properly. Tomorrow, he'd make sure Daniela knew she was valued, trusted, supported. Tomorrow, he'd be the manager he wished he'd been tonight. But for now, he sat in the quiet office of the Highland Suites, listening to the hum of the vending machines and the distant sound of the interstate, thinking about rings and ice machines and memories that couldn't be trusted, and wondering how many other people were walking around absolutely certain of things that weren't true at all. Wednesday morning arrived with brilliant sunshine that felt almost mocking. Jake had gone home at 3 a.m., slept for 4 restless hours, and returned to the Highland Suites at 9:30 a.m. Daniela's shift started at 10 a.m., and he wanted to be there when she arrived. At 9:52 a.m., Mrs. Pritchard appeared at the front desk. She looked like she hadn't slept at all, eyes red and swollen, hair uncombed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. She was clutching a small gift bag. "Is Daniela here yet?" Her voice was hoarse. "She'll be here in about 8 minutes. Would you like to wait in the lobby?" Mrs. Pritchard nodded and sat in one of the worn armchairs near the window, the gift bag balanced on her knees. Jake watched her from behind the desk, noting how her hands shook, how she kept checking her phone and then putting it away, over and over. The behavior of someone dreading what came next. At exactly 10 a.m., Daniela pushed through the employee entrance. She'd clearly been crying, her eyes were puffy, her face drawn. When she saw Mrs. Pritchard, she froze. Jake quickly came around the desk. "Daniela, Mrs. Pritchard would like to speak with you." "You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's okay." Daniela's voice was barely a whisper. "I'll listen." The three of them moved to the small business center off the lobby. Mrs. Pritchard stood across from Daniela, the gift bag still clutched in her hands like a shield. "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out of Mrs. Pritchard in a rush. "I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I accused you of something terrible, and I was completely wrong. The ring was in the ice machine. I must have left it there myself and forgotten. I put you through hell, and you did nothing wrong." "Nothing." Tears were streaming down her face now. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I know I was wrong." Daniela stood very still, processing. Finally, she said, "Why did you think I took it? Why were you so sure?" Mrs. Pritchard flinched at the question. "Because I couldn't admit that I might have forgotten. Because my memory has been unreliable lately. Because it was easier to blame you than to face the fact that something might be wrong with me." She held out the gift bag with shaking hands. "This doesn't make up for anything. But I wanted you to have it anyway." Daniela took the bag hesitantly and looked inside. Her eyes widened. "Mrs. Pritchard, I can't, please. It's $500 in cash and a letter of apology you can use however you need to, show your family, show your friends, whatever helps repair the damage I caused. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's what I can offer." Daniela pulled out the envelope, opened it, and read silently. Jake watched her face change, from anger to surprise to something that looked almost like pity. "You wrote in here that you're going to see a doctor about memory problems." "Yes. I called my daughter this morning. She's driving up from Oklahoma City this weekend to take me to a neurologist. Whatever's happening to me, I can't ignore it anymore. Not after what I did to you. There was a long silence. Then Daniela did something Jake didn't expect. She stepped forward and hugged Mrs. Pritchard. The older woman collapsed into the embrace, sobbing. I forgive you, Daniela said quietly. I forgive you because you're trying to make it right. That matters. After Mrs. Pritchard left, she was checking out early, going home to wait for her daughter. Jake and Daniela stood in the business center alone. You didn't have to forgive her, Jake said. I know. But she's scared. And she's trying to get help. That takes courage. Daniela looked at the cash in her hands. This is 3 months of groceries for me and my daughter. It's the difference between making rent easily and barely scraping by. I can't afford to hold a grudge against someone who's already suffering. Jake felt humbled by her grace. Daniela, I need to apologize too. Last night, I searched your cart. I doubted you, even for a second. I should have defended you more strongly, trusted you more completely. I failed you as a manager. You were in an impossible situation. A guest was screaming theft, and you had to take it seriously. I understand that. She paused. But yeah, it hurt. When you searched my bag, my cart, my pockets, it hurt because it meant you thought I might actually be a thief. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. And I'm going to make sure this is documented properly. You'll get a formal letter of commendation in your employee file. If you ever need a reference, I'll make sure any future employer knows exactly what kind of person you are. Thank you. She smiled, small but genuine. Can I start my shift now? Room 312 needs fresh towels. After Daniela left, Jake sat in the business center, thinking about forgiveness and courage and how the people with the least often showed the most grace. Daniela could have demanded Mrs. Pritchard be banned from the hotel. She could have threatened legal action. She could have made a scene, posted on social media, turned this into a viral story about class and prejudice and how service workers were treated like criminals. Instead, she'd hugged a frightened woman and accepted an apology. The day progressed normally after that: check-ins, check-outs, a clogged toilet on the 3rd floor, a guest who needed recommendations for local restaurants. The ordinary rhythm of hotel management. But something had shifted in Jake. He found himself paying more attention to his housekeeping staff, greeting them by name, asking how their days were going. Small gestures, but important ones. At 2:17 p.m., his manager called. Jake, I heard about the incident last night. Walk me through what happened. Jake explained everything: the accusation, the search, the discovery, the resolution. When he finished, there was a long pause. You handled that well. But I'm concerned about one thing. You sent Daniela home before investigating fully. What if the ring hadn't been found? What if Mrs. Pritchard had gone to the police? Then I would have supported Daniela through that process. I would have testified that nothing was found on her person or her cart. I would have made sure she had legal support if needed. That's not a guarantee of vindication. She could still have been arrested, charged, had her life turned upside down. I know. And that's what kept me up last night. But sir, what else could I have done? The guest was escalating, threatening social media attacks and police involvement. I had to de-escalate before someone got hurt or arrested on the spot. Another pause. You're right. There was no perfect solution. Sometimes our job is just choosing the least bad option. His manager's voice softened. For what it's worth, I think you made the right calls. And the letter of commendation for Daniela was a nice touch. Corporate appreciates when we support our people. After the call ended, Jake felt a weight lift slightly. He'd been second-guessing every decision from last night, replaying scenarios where he'd handled things differently. But maybe there was no right way to handle a situation like that. Maybe there was only doing your best with incomplete information and hoping it worked out. At 4 p.m., Daniela knocked on the office door. Jake? Can I ask you something? Of course. Come in. She sat down, looking thoughtful. why did you believe me? Or I guess, why did you want to believe me, even when you had doubts? Jake considered the question carefully. Because in 5 years of hotel management, I've learned that the simplest explanation is usually the right one. And the simplest explanation wasn't that you'd suddenly decided to steal from a guest. It was that something else had happened, a misunderstanding, a mistake, something we weren't seeing yet. But Mrs. Pritchard's story made sense too. The timeline matched, I was the only one in the room, the ring was missing. From her perspective, I was the obvious suspect. Yes. Which is why this job is so hard. Because sometimes everyone's telling the truth as they understand it, but the facts don't line up. Mrs. Pritchard genuinely believed you'd taken her ring. You genuinely hadn't taken it. Both things were true simultaneously. Daniela nodded slowly. My abuela used to say that everyone's living in their own story, and sometimes those stories crash into each other. Your grandmother was wise. She was. She also said that when stories crash, the people who survive are the ones who can bend without breaking. Daniela smiled. I'm trying to be one of those people. You already are. After she left, Jake thought about stories crashing into each other. Mrs. Pritchard's story of grief and memory loss. Daniela's story of single motherhood and making ends meet. His own story of trying to be a good manager while protecting everyone, employees, guests, the hotel itself. All these stories intersecting in a second-floor hallway over a missing ring. At 6 p.m., as Jake was preparing to leave for the day, a woman in her 30s approached the front desk. Excuse me, are you Jake Morrison? Yes, can I help you? I'm Sarah Pritchard, Linda's daughter. She called me this morning, told me everything that happened. I wanted to thank you for how you handled the situation. Jake felt uncomfortable with the praise. I just did my job. No, you did more than that. You could have called the police immediately, let them sort it out, protected yourself and the hotel. Instead, you tried to find the truth. And you helped my mom realize she needs to see a doctor. Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears. She's been declining for months, but she's stubborn. She kept insisting she was fine. This incident scared her enough to finally admit something's wrong. That might have saved her life. I hope she gets the help she needs. We have an appointment with a neurologist next Tuesday. Whatever the diagnosis is, at least we'll know. And we'll deal with it together. She paused. My mom also told me about Daniela. About how gracious she was. Could you give me her schedule? I'd like to leave her a tip when she's working. A proper tip, not just an apology. Jake looked up Daniela's schedule. She'll be here tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thank you. For everything. After Sarah left, Jake sat behind the front desk watching the evening shift take over. New guests checking in, tired travelers seeking rest, families navigating the chaos of vacation. All of them carrying their own stories, their own struggles, their own moments of forgetting and remembering. He thought about Mrs. Pritchard, driving home to face an uncertain future. He thought about Daniela, cleaning rooms with the same care and attention she'd shown before being accused of theft. He thought about Sarah, taking on the burden of caring for a declining parent, and he thought about himself, 30 years old, assistant general manager of a budget hotel in Kansas, making decisions that affected people's lives in ways he'd never fully understand. This wasn't the glamorous hospitality career he'd imagined in college. But maybe it was something better. Maybe it was real. Maybe it was meaningful in ways that luxury and prestige could never be. At 6:47 p.m., Jake's phone buzzed. A text from Daniela, Mrs. Pritchard's daughter just left me a $200 tip and the kindest note I've ever read. I cried in the supply closet for 10 minutes. Thank you for giving them the chance to make this right. Jake smiled, typed back, you gave them that chance by being willing to forgive. I just facilitated. As he drove home that evening, Jake thought about ice machines and wedding rings and how the smallest decisions could cascade into life-changing moments. If that guest hadn't wanted ice at midnight, Daniela might have been arrested. Mrs. Pritchard might never have gotten help. The truth might have stayed hidden forever. But the ice had been wanted, the ring had been found, and somehow, miraculously, everyone had come out of this intact. Maybe even better than before. Jake pulled into his apartment complex as the sun set, painting the Kansas sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new crises, new stories crashing into each other. But tonight, he could rest knowing he'd done his best. He protected his people, sought the truth, and helped facilitate healing where healing was needed. The Highland Suites would be there tomorrow, humming along with its mixture of ordinary moments and extraordinary crises. And Jake would be there too, ready to navigate whatever came next. Because that's what good managers did. They showed up. They paid attention. They tried to see past the obvious story to the deeper truth underneath. They made sure everyone went home whole. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. And sometimes, if they were very lucky, they got to witness moments of grace, like a young single mother forgiving the woman who'd nearly destroyed her, or a frightened older woman finally admitting she needed help, or a daughter stepping up to care for her declining parent. These moments didn't make the news. They didn't go viral on social media. They happened in small hotel business centers and quiet hallways and supply closets where people cried tears of relief. But they mattered. God, how they mattered. Jake unlocked his apartment door, kicked off his shoes, and collapsed on the couch. His phone buzzed one more time. His manager, good work today. You've earned the rest of the week off. Take it. Jake smiled, closed his eyes, and let the exhaustion wash over him. The Highland Suites would survive without him for a few days. Daniela would continue being excellent. Mrs. Pritchard would face her diagnosis with her daughter by her side. The world would keep turning. And when Jake returned to work on Monday, there would be new guests, new problems, new opportunities to make things right. But for now, for this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The ring was found. The truth was told. The forgiveness was given. And everyone went home whole.